Good morning. It's still technically morning. I'm headed down to South Brooklyn, Sheepshead Bay, and then into Queens area. I'm running a little behind schedule, but regardless yeah, low tide was 10-15 minutes ago. Alright, let me get crossed in here. Now we're out by the bay. We're gonna go down Flatbush to Dead Horse Bay. You can't see it on camera. There's a lovely view of the Manhattan skyline to my left, along with Mau Island, aka White Island, which is an artificial island in the little delta over here, constructed of all of the dirt and gravel dredged up during the construction of the Belt Parkway. Now it's like a little, they're like native plants grow there and shit. And you can take like guided tours at certain points during the summer, which I need to look into doing, but suffice to say, one way or another, I'm getting on that island. Not that I think there's anything necessarily there to photograph. I don't know that it's like striking scenery or anything, but conceptually very much want to make some photos there. Up to my left is the center of the highway Dunkin' and gas station, which, very novel concept to me. I don't know, I just think that's fun. More of that.
Brace yourselves for a bit of a time skip here. This first outing was actually kind of a bust, and I didn't wind up taking any pictures at all. I made a second attempt, and that's what the rest of the video is going to consist of, but I'm keeping in the first attempt just for thoroughness and to give you full context as to, what was going on while I was making the video. Let me also use this as an opportunity to explain better where I'm headed, because once again, I didn't do a great job of that while I was biking. I'm headed out to Dead Horse Bay, which is the body of water between kind of the southern end of Brooklyn and the Rockaway Islands. More specifically, I'm going to Glass Bottle Beach, which, if I understand correctly, was essentially a landfill that somebody had the bright idea of covering with sand to make an artificial beach, but it didn't really work out because the sand washed away and now it's just a beach kind of made of trash. I thought it might make for some interesting photos, so I will let you catch back up with me on my second attempt at making it all the way out there.
As you might be able to tell from the footage you just saw, the last time did not go as planned, but I'm back out here again. It is actually morning this time, a little after 6 a.m. Low tide was at 6:09. I say was, it might not even be 6:09 yet. I don't know for sure. High tide was almost 10 minutes ago, or low tide, which is fine. Kind of like I was saying in the last video, I don't need to be there at low tide. Last time I was a little, the weather was hotter than expected. I was overall underprepared. Yeah, the vibes were just off. That's like a stupid thing to say, but sometimes it's just not in the cards. Anyway, it is the 4th of July, American Independence Day. It might work to my advantage, at least initially. I think the morning things are going to be pretty dead, but I have a feeling things might pick up in busyness as the afternoon goes on. It is so dead, in fact. Let's get a little crazy. Just for a couple minutes. I mean, come on. I think it'll be dead in the morning, but as the afternoon wears on, especially because I'm going to be near the beach, I am concerned that things will get quite busy. Yeah, I headed to basically the same locations as last time. Starting off with Dead Horse Bay / Glass Bottle Beach. Really just want to get that one shot in. Yeah, I don't even know if there's going to be a shot at Dead Horse Bay. It's more just like the principle of the thing. Whoa. Took that one hard. Oh no. Oh no. down Ocean Parkway, left on Neptune, which turns into Emmons, I believe. Emmons to that little Jamaica Belt Parkway Greenway situation. Takes us all the way to Queens. We're only taking it to Flatbush for now. The exposure is probably all fucked from this because the sun is right in my eyes. Which, honestly, it's good that the exposure's fucked because now you can get a sense of what I'm experiencing. Oh look, first other cyclists I've seen today. Man's got the envy socks. Love to see it. Think his shins are carbon? Yeah. I love this bike path. It's just such a nice change of pace from what I usually ride. And it's so much more accessible than like some of the other greenway areas that are fun to bike on. Oh Christ. We're back at the center highway Dunkin' Donuts. Wonder if they're open. I think I could hop the guardrail, get some breakfast. All right, we're approaching the destination. Man, that's crazy. Last time this was all fenced off, but I didn't see any signs this time, did you? How convenient. Yeah, let's head straight first. We'll loop around to the other paths. See, this is the shit that the all-road bike is great for. Taking it slow, because I don't know how overgrown this is going to be. I don't know how sandy it is. Man, it is like 5 degrees cooler than it was on the path. Yeah, man, even if I don't shoot anything, this is cool as fuck. Wow. Honest. This trail is a lot longer than I thought it would be. I thought this would kind of just spit me right out on the beach. This looks like it kind of dead ends. I gotta do a tick check. Oh, real sandy. Oh, fuck. Wow. Okay. I think I might loop around to another spot. Although, that honestly might, it's the sun, it was not directly right there. I think that would be a shot. Can I shield the camera from the sun? I guess I could. Yeah, I don't think I quite have the angle I want here. I guess that is one thing to note. This might be something that was best served for an evening light rather than a morning light. But I think a morning light is probably more conducive to less people on the beach. There's one guy out there fishing, but I feel like in the evening you'd get like teens. And I trust fishermen to mind their business. I'll mind mine. But as if I've ever minded my business. I think I can rule out that way pretty firmly. So let's hit this way. Yeah, because I feel like that third option is just going to put us farther along the beach that I was just on, where there's not really a solid angle because of the sunrise. The sun's a little too low in the sky, so I'm getting like, I'd get completely blown out highlights on all the water and everything, and then also the sun would be in the shot, which I don't really want. This way sandier, so maybe this way. This way, or just wait like 30 minutes for the sun to be slightly higher in the sky, so I can just kind of angle out of it. Yeah, I don't love how narrow this is. Definitely doing a tick check when we get out of here. Okay, yeah, I can bike on this. Sandy, but rideable. Really sandy. Holy shit. Ooh, almost tipped over there. I can carry the bike. All right. Gotta say, this is a pretty cool spot. It is not quite as dramatic as I might have been led to believe by some of the other photos I've seen and from like the descriptions of it that I've read, but it is not any less cool. This is a pretty cool beach. Pretty grody. I can see why they would close it off to the public though. Like, any environmental hazards aside, it does look a little unsafe to be encouraging people to play on this, considering it is like broken glass at the beach. So yeah, I'm getting an angle. Can't really look into the camera because of the sun. The sun is directly behind the camera, but I'm gonna shoot kind of this way out towards the debris over here, get a little bit of the rockaways out there on the shot, mostly focus on the tires and stuff in the foreground, tires and seaweed and glass bottles. I've got some color film with me for once. Found a box of Ektar 100 sitting around that I did not realize I still had. I don't know how old it is. I can't find the expiration date on the box. So I'm rating it at box speed. It was definitely not stored properly for its entire lifetime because I found it in my desk, which is weird, but not gonna question it. But there's been a couple of sheets in there, so this is an opportunity to use that because I think this is a scene that would actually lend itself to color. The light is real nice right now. I'm gonna start with the 210. I famously only have two 4x5 lenses, so my lens choice is mostly determined by necessity. Hopefully me walking out of frame to grab shit out of my backpack is not annoying. Let me move the backpack. This is compelling. This is compelling content. Me deciding on the fly how I'm gonna shoot this video. Starting with the 210, gonna see how things look. So I wanna keep the camera level mostly. The most interesting stuff in this image is in the foreground. Maybe I'll go horizontal because there's these lovely raking shadows across the beach. I am getting a fair amount of that. Let's try horizontal. Let's just see how it looks. Yeah, my thinking was like, oh, maybe I'll try horizontal because a lot of this like blank sand is not particularly interesting compositionally, but if I get more blank sand if I go landscape. So let's stick with portrait. Angle down a little bit more. Just keep, there's a tree there that I want to keep slightly in the shot, and there's some kind of garbage that might be just out of shot right here that I kind of want in as like a foreground element. I think I actually want to use a combination of lens movements. That's way too much lens swing. Okay, that feels good. Yeah, it feels good. Ooh, if I can get a bird like that in the shot. Yeah, okay. Okay. This exposure is gonna be a little bit weird too. Do you want to do F11? 30th in the shadows. And I'm getting the white sky is 500. I'm shooting Ektar, so I don't have a huge depth of field, dynamic range. But I want to do a third stop over f8, it looks like. If you're wondering about my logic regarding exposure, I use kind of a, I guess you could call it like zone system for dummies, aka in principle I know how the zone system works, like very broad strokes. In practice I don't. Never actually read that Ansel Adams stuff. Man, could I be more like dismissive of that Ansel Adams stuff? Yeah, I need to shift over like a millimeter. But I try to kind of identify basically just try to look at the shot, figure out what I want the darkest areas to be, where the highlights are gonna fall. Basically I kind of try to find the extremes and then use that to work backwards and figure out what I'm gonna lose information-wise. And tailor my exposure around that. Like, what am I okay not having be in the shot? Get one there. I'm still not in love with my composition. Like, it's not bad. I don't think this is gonna be a bad picture. But I can't help but feel like I could do better. I'm gonna have to agree with me from the past here. I can absolutely do better than this. There's two big things wrong with this image in my opinion. The first is the focus. I think I was so preoccupied with keeping the rockaways in the background out of focus that I made one too many fiddly little lens movements, and I knocked some of the foreground elements that were ultimately more important out of focus as well. This is a level of out of focus that I think is unacceptable. I think there is definitely like a margin of error there. There's a bit of a sliding scale. Not everything has to be 100% tack sharp all the time, but this is a situation where it's a locked off landscape shot. Everything that I want to be in focus should be in focus, and that's absolutely not the case here. Obviously some stuff is in focus. You know, I've got some stuff in the foreground that is nice and sharp, but that tire and some of those trees in the front there, I lost the focus on them, and I think the image like dramatically suffers for it. I think the other big weak point of this image for me is the composition, which isn't to say that the composition is bad. I think it's maybe too safe of a composition, and I might just be saying that because the focus is so bad that the composition being kind of bland means there's really no selling point for the image for me. So, you know, hard for me to really judge, but something about the composition doesn't feel quite right to me. I don't want to be too negative about this image because I think there are good things about it. Number one being the quality of light. I think the sunrise light here is gorgeous, and I think this scene looks really good in this light. I know I alluded to coming back and shooting this at sunset possibly, but I think this specific angle, those raking shadows are awesome. And the way it lights up the trees, I think is really perfect. I don't think I could have asked for better light on this morning. And I think the exposure turned out really well too. I haven't had the best luck exposing Ektar in the past. I've had a lot of times where I've accidentally clipped shadows or like completely blown out the sky. And I think this turned out quite well. I have no real notes about the exposure here. It's just, again, hard for me to ignore that focus, unfortunately. Maybe I'll walk down the beach a ways. See what I can see. All right. So, I don't really want to put my backpack on this, but I'm going to. I found another shot here. I'm realizing that this would have been a place to come with something other than a large format camera. Just because there's a lot of small stuff I want to take pictures of, but that doesn't necessarily justify setting up the whole 4x5. So, flag that as a part 2 for this video. Coming back with some better equipment. A little bit more of a still life situation here. Some tires covered in seaweed. A lot of glass bottles. Trying to catch some of that raking sunrise light before it's completely gone. I think my exposure is going to be basically the same as the last shot. I don't have the sky in the frame this time though. So 60th Seems like I really want to be exposing it at about a 60th. Like I said, shooting Ektar, so not a huge amount of latitude. I don't want to overexpose too much, but luckily this scene does not have a ton of crazy highlights or crazy shadows. It's mostly highlights, I should say. So we're really kind of going for that. All right. 1, 2, and 3. Cool.
Luckily, the second sheet I'm extremely happy with. This is one of those images that just works for me. It's not super exciting. It's not super dynamic. There's not a ton going on, but I'm very pleased with the composition in terms of the way the objects are distributed throughout the frame. I think I did a good job on the focus. I used a little bit of Scheimpflug to try and keep all of the bottles sharp. It does drop off a little bit in the very background and the very foreground, which I actually like because it does, keeps it from feeling too cluttered by having a little bit of that softness. It has that, a little bit of that imperfection, a little bit of personality still. It doesn't feel like super cold and like technical. I like the light. I think again that raking sunrise light was just really working for this beach. I think the way it's catching the bottles is lovely. I love the reflections on the water, the greens of the seaweed, the tires in the background, and I don't know. I'm very, very pleased with this image. I don't have too many like specific things that were surprising about it. I just think this is a scene that really worked. I think the saturation of the Ektar is actually really helping here too. I think a more neutral, flatter film like Portra might have made this look a little bit too muted, and I think the way those greens pop is actually really nice. I don't know that I'm necessarily happy with the specific hue of green I got for this, particular export for the video. I think if I were to print this image, I would probably spend a lot more time tweaking that. But in terms of just like overall image quality, this is a big thumbs up for me. Very happy with this.
So that was my 2 shots of Ektar for now. Not going to reload it until later. Why did I pull the whole back off the camera? I'm going to pretend it was on purpose. Glad I came over here. Or came back here. I do think I need to shoot it with a different camera. I need to come back with something I can shoot roll film with, I think, or just be a little bit more nimble. Yeah, like I said, lots of small stuff that it's just like, I don't want to waste an entire sheet on some of these things, and I also don't want to have to take the time to set up each individual shot. So I will probably be revisiting this location in a different video, so look forward to that. But for now, I'm gonna pack up and head out across the water to the Rockaways over there. Ooh! Oh God, just running over glass. All right. Dead Horse Bay went pretty well. About to cross, I don't know what this little stretch of water is technically called. About to cross this bridge over here onto the Rockaways. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm shooting in the Rockaways, but hey, figured I'd take a peek. Got 2 shots at the beach. Not a ton. On your left. But I think it was a good scouting trip, if nothing else. Here's a little New York trivia for you. Up ahead, as I've mentioned like 6 times already, we're kind of coming down onto the Rockaways. There used to be another island farther out into the water, kind of parallel to it. Generally, I think it's called Hogsback Island or Hogs Island, depending on where you look. It hasn't existed since the early 1900s, I think 1920s. Huge hurricane, similar to Sandy or like Ida a couple of years ago. You know, big, huge tropical storm. Like I said, 1920s, I believe, washed the whole island away, because it was essentially, Fire Island is similar, where the kind of, it started out as basically just a glorified sandbar, and sediment just continued to collect until it was a self-sustained thing. And I guess Hogsback hadn't quite gotten to the self-sustained part, because hurricane washed it out to sea and it doesn't exist anymore. It's still visible on some old maps from like the 1890s. Lovely way to start the morning. And at this point, the catchphrase of this channel is like, might not get any good pictures, but nice bike ride. Like, I am immediately hitting a dead end here. That's embarrassing. Whoops. So I'm abruptly pivoting what it is I want to photograph today. I don't know that Fort Tilden Beach is really my vibe right now. It's like a little too chill. That sounds like a stupid thing to say. It's just there's a lot of people like going for their morning walks and shit this morning, and it's just not really the vibe I want. They're like, they've got service vehicles picking up trash and stuff right now. I just think it's, I don't know. I'd rather explore this on an afternoon. So while the tide is still relatively low, I am making a harsh pivot, not my turn, to try and race down the parkway in the other direction and maybe hit Calvervaux Calvervaux Park. Gonna race back towards Calvervaux Park, cruise around there, hopefully take another picture or two. Again, informal catchphrase of this channel, but like at least it doesn't matter to me if I get amazing photos or if I have an amazing ride, as long as it's rewarding in some capacity, whether it be artistically or physically. Even if the ride isn't good, if the weather's good, you know? As long as you're outside breathing fresh air, it's hard to complain. And yet I always find a way. Whole series of issues going on here. First things first, my sound recorder, my audio recorder is running out of battery, so hopefully that doesn't become a problem later. But more kind of pressingly, I lost the water bottle. I was just drinking out of it and put it back in the bottle cage. Come up to a red light a couple miles later, go to take another sip, water bottle's gone. I don't know how that's possible. I didn't see it, I didn't hear it, I didn't run it over. I have no idea when it happened. I'm not gonna backtrack for it. It was a cheap water bottle, but a little baffling. I'm about to get back on the Greenway. There's a section here where it kind of ends. You got to ride on Neptune Avenue for a bit, but take a right here. A little more street riding, and then we're back in business. You know, I think I do know how I lost the water bottle. I carry my tripod in my frame bag here, my little half frame bag that I made, and it's tough to fit some water bottles. I guess the water bottle probably didn't make it all the way back into the bottle cage, and the tripod bouncing around knocked it out, and it somehow just didn't hit my legs or fall into my field of view. It's at this beach here. When you get the time of day right, is teeming with crabs. Oh, I can see them actually. So maybe we'll take some crab photos. That might be nice. Eat some breakfast, take some crab photos. I mean, I've had breakfast, but brunch. So the thing about crab photos is that the crabs are skittish, as you might have guessed. So you gotta be pretty patient. You gotta kind of focus on where the crab is gonna be rather than where the crab is, because realistically the crab is not gonna be there while you're focusing unless your crabs are a lot less skittish than these crabs. Got some really well-adjusted crabs, maybe you'll be fine. They tend to startle at like the slightest thing. I've got kind of two crabs I got my eye on right now. They were just poking their heads out, and as I like sat back slightly there, they both ran back into the burrows. Because you're focusing again on where the crab is going to be, not where the crab is, it's hard to be too picky about composition. I am shooting large format, obviously, but I am probably going to wind up cropping in just because it's hard to get close enough. Just with bellows extension and everything, it's just not realistic. That's another thing to note. My exposure is probably going to be fucked up. I am not good at accounting for bellows extension, especially since I don't have a ruler or measuring tape of any kind on me. This is not my first rodeo crab-wise. I have done this a handful of times before, and I've gotten some decent pictures, but nothing I've been like over the moon about. So I like to come back once in a while and make another attempt or two. Oh, I was actually extended too far. Look at that, that's good. They're starting to come out now, but if I put my dark cloth on, I'm gonna spook them. I might have to. I'm gonna have to spook them anyway, because I have to put the shutter release on. So I'm just gonna grab the dark cloth, and if I spook them, I spook them. The guy I'm aiming at is being brave, which is cool, and I've picked a good model. Nope, spooked him. Shit. Oh well. Okay, I think I have my focus roughly dialed in. I'm gonna put the shutter release on and then just wait until the crab pokes his head back out. Let's get the exposure first, actually. So this is a 210 millimeter lens. That's about 300. I'm gonna guess it's a little bit longer than. So I'm gonna do about a 2-stop increase in exposure based on my calculations here. 1.5 to 2 stops. Stop 2/3. I'm not gonna record me sitting here for half an hour straight while I wait for the optimal shot. So I'm gonna get my exposure, and then you will catch up with me after I've taken the shot. He's chilling. I'm just waiting for him to pose now. Double check my focus. Pleased with my focus. And we just wait. See how I can hold this crouch for before my legs fucking fall off. Yeah, there we go. Now stick your claw out, bud. Give me some claw. Yeah, there we go. No, hold still. Oh no, now the focus is all fucked up. Do you think I can put the dark side back in and refocus? Yeah, that was a shot. I got 2 crabs in that shot. 2 crabs for the price of 1. Crab meat special. I don't know what that means.
No idea what I was talking about there with crab meat special, but let's talk crab photos for a second. As I've alluded to already in the video, there's a lot of issues with photographing crabs. The number one is actually the first issue that I talked about with the first image in this video, and that's focus. And I realized in reviewing these images that I have been approaching the focus for these crab pictures incorrectly kind of this whole time. And I really should have realized this a long time ago, but what I should have been doing is getting the burrow and the sand nice and tack sharp. And then taking the fine focus and walking it back towards me, towards the camera, until the burrow and the sand just start to fall out of focus. Because I think that'll reverse the problem that I'm currently having, which if you look is that the burrow and the sand And the legs of the crab are nice and sharp, but the back and the eyes and the tops of the claws start to fall out of focus. And those are the things that I would kind of prefer to have, nice and sharp. So I think next time I go and photograph the crabs, that's the stance that I'm going to take, rather than just trying to like blindly anticipate and then use the aperture and the depth of field to try and compensate and keep everything sharp. The reason I want to avoid using the aperture to try and keep things sharp is, one, because it clearly doesn't work very well, and two, kind of feeds nicely into the second issue, which is a multifaceted issue for these pictures, and that's exposure. Crabs move much faster than you might think they do, and in order to avoid getting an out of focus picture that also has a bunch of motion blur, I need to be shooting at minimum a 1/25th of a second, and preferably all the way up at a 500th, which really limits my ability to actually stop that aperture down fully and like get that deep depth of field that I might want. This is further kind of compounded by the fact that I am beholden to the tides when I shoot these pictures, so often the sun isn't at the best angle for shooting these images in the first place. You can see even in the images that I shot for this video, despite there being a lot of interesting textures going on, the angle that the sun is at doesn't necessarily highlight all of those. And that's kind of even further compounded by the fact that these are very monochromatic scenes. You can see in the B-roll that I shot, and also in this color image of the crabs that I think is maybe my best crab image to date, there's not a lot of color variation going on in the scene, which means that if the exposure is a little bit blown out or the lighting is a little bit flat, everything just becomes a wash of gray tones that's very hard to read. And I think that's actually a problem with these specific images for this video. I think they're a little bit muddy and a little bit messy looking because everything is within a pretty narrow tonal range of gray. And again, looking at those color images, unfortunately, color really doesn't solve that problem. I've been meaning to try bringing a flash and seeing if I can use some strobe to get a little bit of background separation and maybe solve the problem that way, but I think it's just kind of part and parcel with this scene. It's brown crabs on brown sand with like brown faded plastic in the background. It's just gonna be monochromatic, but it is a major factor to consider. The lighting makes it difficult to really discern what's going on in the image sometimes. And lastly, I did allude to this, in my narration on location, but I'm not great at compensating for bellows extension, which if you don't shoot large format, the longer the bellows of the camera are extended, the more you have to increase your exposure time to account for that. And there's formulas for calculating it, and I always have to look them up because I can never seem to remember them. And again, like I said, I don't carry a measuring tape when I shoot, so it's a little bit of guesswork on my part, but it worked out this time. These actually are pretty well exposed negatives. It's just, all of those other difficulties kind of compounded and make the images maybe not as perfect as I might want them to be. But to summarize, I'm pretty happy with these crab photos. I don't think they're the best ones I've ever shot, but I think they're in the kind of above average bracket. I have an interesting relationship to these crab photos where, I don't know, I guess maybe it's just an interesting challenge for me, but there's something kind of meditative about it for me. Just going out there and like sitting on the beach on that like little concrete boat launch, sitting in that slough and just staring at the crabs for hours and just like trying to get the perfect shot, but not having a ton of control and also not knowing until, later that evening or even like weeks later once I developed the pictures, whether or not anything I tried worked. There's something about it that's like a nice test of technique for me, and also just like there's enough luck involved that it's always different. I don't know. I think it's a worthwhile exercise for me, and like I said, I'm going to keep doing it. And I mean, look at this guy. He turned out pretty good. He's posing for me all right.
I'm done shooting crabs for now, but I have been crouching on gravel and staring at crabs in the direct sun for like over an hour now. So I'm going to pop over there into the shade. Maybe photograph that concrete slab over there. I don't know if you can see it in the video. Eat some food, recover a little bit before I head home, because I feel like mush. I don't want to like stomp across the crab zone after photographing them for so long. So let's try and walk down to here. I don't think there's crabs in the grass as much. Stray cat, I don't know if you saw that. I'm gonna walk across the crab zone. Sorry, crabs. Well, I don't think the stray cat, beach cat photo is happening. Just about ready to head back, but before I pack up, I've still got one shot left, and 180 degrees that way is A shot that might be kind of cool. It's some concrete slabs kind of dropping down towards the water. Gonna shoot that real quick, and yeah, maybe if we're lucky, the beach cats will have come back by the time I'm done with that. Doubt it, but you know, you never know. Tide is coming in too, so I can't hang out on this little alcove forever. But yeah, I'm gonna flip the camera around that way. All right, literally 180 degrees. I'm just turning around over to here. The downside to doing things this way is that if the stray cats show back up before I have the film holders reloaded, I'm really pushing my luck again. But that's how it goes with stray cat pictures, you know, you hope for the best, but it's important to be realistic with yourself. Oh, this is gonna be an annoying exposure. Wow, okay. This shot might not work. There is so much glare coming off the water right now. I have like a giant lens flare I can see in the shot. It's gonna completely throw off my exposure and my composition. Yeah, this might not work. This might be another one where it's like I waited too long and the tide's come in too far, so I can't. Oh, you know, the water is physically coming up around my feet now, all of a sudden. So I am gonna call that a lost cause, and I'm gonna pack up and head out. Like, I can physically see the tide coming in now, all of a sudden. So I'm wrapping things up. The stray cat photos didn't work out, as I was saying. Cats haven't come back, unfortunately. Neither did the concrete slab photo. Not that the concrete slab didn't come back, but the water came in, actually. The water came back. It's reflecting a ton of sunlight back into the lens because it's kind of backlit right now. So I either expose for the concrete and then like have a giant third of the image completely blown out, or I expose for that and then I can't see the concrete block. So kind of a lose-lose. And it's also like giving a giant lens flare too. So these are the concrete blocks. You can probably kind of see both why I was interested in photographing them. The light coming through the trees there is making some interesting shadows. The actual angle that I wanted to shoot is probably like 4 yards to my right. But you can see, one, the tide coming in, and two, how overexposed the water is compared to the actual concrete blocks. So, you know, that's why it didn't work out, but maybe another time. Back in the saddle again. I'm headed back, I think. Part of me, I've shot 2 frames of color, 3 frames of black and white. I'd love to shoot a 4th and have an even number of things to develop, but I'll let that happen organically. It's getting really hot. I have a feeling it's going to be hotter than forecasted. I'm not really interested in a repeat of last week where I overheat just looking for stuff to shoot. So, I guess it wasn't last week. Doesn't matter. Last time. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it good now, unless I see something really inspiring on the way, which is always possible. About to do the Bell Parkway stuff. There's plans in the works to develop a lot of this a lot more, which I think is a good thing in the grand scheme. But personally, I love a good empty field, good overgrown lot. So I'm objectively the wrong person to ask when it comes to improvement projects like that. Because I kind of love the idea that this is just this kind of strip of land between the highway and the water here. I think it's cool. I think it gives it kind of a, I don't know. It's got a vibe to it. It's got character to it, I guess, that the Hudson River Greenway kind of lacks. I think it's the reason why I prefer a lot of the northern parts of that greenway to the more built-up areas. Not to be a dick about it, but like, they feel gentrified in a way that the upper portions don't. And again, objectively, the upper portions have been historically neglected from like their inception. Like, there are structural, systemic reasons that the upper sections of the Hudson River Greenway do not have the amenities that the lower sections have. But it does make it feel much more like a hike and bike trail, like an actual trail as opposed to a city park. And I think there are things that are good about that. It's just that it's supposed to be a city park. So, yeah. One of those things I think where it just comes down to your philosophy on how a park should function in an urban environment. At the end of the day, it makes more sense to have a park be a park than to be a kind of more untamed thing, unfortunately. Which is also the case with Calvert-Vaux Park. One of the things I love about it is that there's like a giant mud pit full of crabs that I could find, and like there's just weird stuff in that park. Like, it's got soccer fields, it's got a little wildflower garden and stuff, but it's objectively, I keep saying objectively, it is a just less manicured park in a way that I personally find extremely appealing. And that's why I keep coming back to photograph it, is there's something about that there for me. These green spaces in a city as kind of dense and artificial as New York is. You know, New York is the archetypal American city. So there's something to me about these spots that get kind of forgotten. I don't know what they actually are. Forgotten by that urbanization impulse and get to kind of be their own thing in one way or another. I like that. So off to my left is left and up ahead is Staten Island. Place that I should bike to again. Maybe that's a video idea. Shooting on Staten Island. Man, this would be a sweet place to set off fireworks. That's kind of what I mean. It's this empty field next to the water where people are launching fireworks. I feel like you wouldn't get that on like a nice greenway with like art installations and benches. Maybe I'm wrong though. Just made the frustrating realization that I have dropped my headphone case at some point.
Forecasted.
So, dropped the water bottle, dropped my fucking headphone case. So, we're gonna zip back along the path here for a minute. Camera battery's about to die, but I found my headphone case. So, success. Did have to backtrack pretty much all the way back to Calvert-Vaux. So we're back at the beginning of the Bell Parkway Greenway, but you know what? Success, success. Made it to Bay Ridge, Sunset Park-ish areas. Back on the streets. Not my favorite part of the ride, but it's not too long of a ride. It's nice. Just gotta get to like 36th. And then we're good. I used to work in this neighborhood, this general area. Also almost moved here when I first moved to the city. Looked at a bunch of apartments in the Sunset Park area. And here is Sunset Park itself. I am going to get squished by this bus. Wow. That guy shot that gap. Holy shit. And then here's Greenwood Cemetery. Up straight ahead. We're going to take a right here past the MTA depot. This can be a cool area. Not always, but it has the opportunity to be cool. Lots of people will ditch their like broken down cars over here. So sometimes there's like really cool like junked up cars. And then yeah, Greenwood Cemetery is just beautiful. Sometimes in the spring and late summer, the plants along the edge here get really overgrown, and it looks nice. There's actually a spot in Greenwood Cemetery I've been meaning to photograph, but wrong time of day for that, I think. The sun is like directly overhead, so not the best light. Yeah, see these plants here, they bloom. Sometimes it's like crazy, there's flowers everywhere. See what I mean? This is a spot where people just kind of park their cars. Park carnivals, apparently. They'll park poultry trucks on this road sometimes too, and it stinks up like the entire street. Just reeks of like chicken and like feces. That always used to be horrible. I used to bike this way like every day. Oh, rider truck. Fucking up my flow. Yeah, he's fishing the rest. Okay, rider truck's trying to kill me.
But try as it might, that rider truck did not succeed in killing me, because here I am, alive and recording this outro for you. So thank you so much for watching. This video was a little bit all over the place. As you saw, there were a bunch of kind of dead ends that I went down where I, biked to Fort Tilden and then didn't take a single picture there. But that's the experience of going out and shooting like this. You'll get to a location and it won't be what you expected, or the weather will be wrong, or you're just not in the mood, and you got to come back again another time sometimes. And, that's the reality of making pictures like this. And I think I still got pictures that I was happy with today. I loved that picture at Glass Bottle Beach. Thought those crab photos were pretty cool. I didn't lose my headphones. It's a win across the board in my book. And also, spoiler alert, this is not going to be the only video I make where I get to a location and just come away with no pictures. The next video that comes out is going to have a bunch of that, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Like I said in the video, I've got some good intel for what I want to do next time when I return to these locations with different gear, and I'm actually hoping to shoot those videos before the summer ends. If it doesn't happen, I didn't mention that. We didn't have this conversation, but I'm trying to get the ball rolling on that, and hopefully I'll have those videos coming out soon, along with other stuff that I have already shot. So if that sounds interesting, or if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I will see you again next time.